Hello, everyone, and welcome to Registrar Corp's webinar entitled Annual FDA Drug Establishment Registration and Listings. My name is Jonathan Rhodes, a marketing specialist at Registrar Corp and today's moderator. The presentation will conclude with a live questions and answers session. If we run out of time, we are also happy to respond to your questions by email. You may submit a written question anytime during the webinar by using the Ask a Question feature in the top center of your webinar screen. A recorded copy of this presentation will be sent to all registrants. I'd like to introduce our speaker today. Melissa Sayers holds a Master of Science degree in Oceanography from Old Dominion University in Norfolk, Virginia. She joined Registrar Corp in 2012 and has specialized in electronic drug submissions, including drug establishment registration, product listing, self-identification, and electronic common technical document submissions for drug master file and abbreviated new drug application submissions. I'd like to go ahead and begin. Melissa?
Thank you, Jonathan, for the introduction. Today's webinar, we will provide some background information on what makes a product a drug product, define types of drug products, define different business operations, and then lead into the requirement to register an establishment, listing drug products, annual product listing recertification, and a new requirement coming up that applies to human prescription drug products, known as product serialization. We will summarize what we have presented and allow time for questions and answers at the end. We are going to start with some background information according to FDA's requirements for products that fall under regulation as drugs. A drug by definition is intended for use in diagnosing, curing, mitigating, treating, or preventing a disease, intended to affect the structure or function of the body as its primary function through chemical action. FDA uses a variety of methods to determine intended use, including product claims on packaging, printed materials, websites, consumer perception, or product reputation or ingredients. Monographs are sets of rules specifically for over-the-counter drug products, which describe required or acceptable ingredients, testing, and labeling of the product, among other requirements. Some examples of over-the-counter drug products, which are currently covered by over-the-counter monographs, are acne medications, treatments for dandruff, dermatitis, psoriasis, and sunscreen. If the drug formulation or claims on the labeling fall outside a monograph, then the company must file a new drug application prior to marketing. The drug is not to be marketed until the application has been approved by FDA. Current federal law requires that a drug be the subject of an approved marketing application before it is transported or distributed across state lines. Because a sponsor will probably want to ship the investigational drug to clinical investigators in many states, it must seek an exemption from that legal requirement. The investigational new drug application is the means through which the sponsor technically obtains this exemption from the FDA. The new drug application, NDA, is an approval process for the sale and marketing new drugs in the United States to prove that the drug is safe and effective and its proposed uses and benefits outweigh the risks, proposed labeling is appropriate, and the methods used in manufacturing the drug are adequate to preserve the drug's identity, strength, quality, and purity. An abbreviated new drug application, an ANDA, contains data which, when submitted to FDA, provides for the review and ultimate approval of a generic drug product. A generic drug product is one that is comparable to an innovator's drug product in dosage form, strength, route of administration, quality, performance characteristics, and intended use. The innovator drug product would have been filed as a new drug application, NDA. A generic drug is a drug product that has been approved under an abbreviated new drug application that is comparable to dosage form, strength, route of administration, quality, and performance characteristics, and intended use to a brand or reference listed drug product that's been approved under a new drug application. These are the drugs on the market that typically cost less to the patient versus a brand name drug. Active pharmaceutical ingredient is the ingredient in a drug formulation that is performing the function of diagnosing, curing, mitigating, treating, or preventing a disease. An example of a common active pharmaceutical ingredient is salicylic acid in acne medication. An inactive ingredient is all the other ingredients in the drug product that is not an active pharmaceutical ingredient. It is important that these ingredients are safe for the consumer and do not interfere with the effectiveness of the active pharmaceutical ingredients. There are different categories of finished drug products. For the purpose of today's webinar, we will be focusing on regulation that applies to these specific categories: over-the-counter drug products, prescription drug products, homeopathic drug products, and veterinary drug products. Over-the-counter drugs are available to the consumer without a prescription that can be used safely without medical supervision. Examples include sunscreen, fluoride toothpaste, dandruff shampoo, and antiperspirant deodorant. Prescription drugs cannot be used safely without medical supervision and require a prescription from a doctor to obtain. Examples include injectable drugs or drugs to treat serious conditions like heart disease, cancer, or fertility problems. Homeopathy is a system of treating disease symptoms using small doses of substances which produce similar symptoms in healthy people. Homeopathic drugs are diluted to infinitesimal amount. Homeopathic ingredients in combination with non-homeopathic active ingredients are not homeopathic drug products. These will be treated as a new drug that will require approval to market in the United States. Veterinary is animal drugs intended to cure, mitigate, or treat a disease or disease-related condition as either over-the-counter or prescription. Medicated animal feeds are also included. It is important to understand how business function terms are defined and used in relation to requirements for businesses that handle drug products. We will go over each of the business functions noted on this slide. A manufacturer physically makes or manipulates the drug product. Owning the rights to a formulation to make the drug product does not make a company a manufacturer. There are different types of manufacturers, such as active pharmaceutical ingredient manufacturer and medicated animal feed manufacturer. The FDA will differentiate in an establishment registration and product listing, which we will be discussing shortly. Pack is when the drug product is manufactured by a different facility and your facility only packs the drug product. Repack is the act of taking a finished drug product or unfinished drug from the container in which it was placed in commercial distribution and placing it into a different container without manipulating, changing, or affecting the composition or formulation of the drug. Label is when the drug product is manufactured by a different facility and your facility only labels the drug product. Relabel is to change or alter the existing label or labels on a drug product or drug package without repacking the drug or drug package. This term does not include the addition or modification of information affixed solely for purposes of delivery to a customer, customer identification, or inventory management. Analysis means sampling, testing, or control procedures applied to the final product or to any part of the process, including, for example, analytical testing of drugs for another registered establishment's drug. If laboratory is only engaged in analysis for research, teaching, or chemical analysis and is not for sale, it is exempt from the registration requirement with FDA. Private label distributor means, with respect to a particular drug, a person who did not manufacture, repack, relabel, or salvage the drug, but under whose label or trade name the drug is commercially distributed. One of the first submissions that a company will submit to FDA when first engaging in the manufacture of drug products in the United States or to be offered for import into the United States is registering the facility with FDA. Registration of a facility with FDA informs FDA that your facility is engaged in the manufacture, preparation, propagation, compounding, or processing of a drug or an animal feed bearing or containing a new animal drug that is either located within the United States or will be offered for import into the United States. The registration is submitted electronically, formatted in structured pragmatic labeling, known as SPL format, that uses extensible markup language known as XML code. Manufacturers, repackers, relabelers, and salvagers must register each domestic establishment that manufactures, repacks, relabels, or salvages a drug or an animal feed bearing or containing a new animal drug, and each foreign establishment that manufactures, repacks, relabels, or salvages a drug or an animal feed bearing or containing a new animal drug that is imported or offered for import into the United States. When operations are conducted at more than one establishment and common ownership and control among all the establishments exist, the parent, subsidiary, or affiliate company may submit registration information for all establishments. Some exemptions include, but are not limited to, from registering, pharmacies or hospitals, clinics, or other healthcare entities and public health agencies that operate in conformance with all applicable local laws regulating the practice of pharmacy and medicine. They regulate, engage in dispensing prescription drugs of a valid prescription, and do not manufacture, repack, relabel, or salvage drugs other than the regular course of their business of dispensing or selling drugs at retail or practice of pharmacy, including dispensing. Another exemption are practitioners who are licensed by law to prescribe or administer drugs and who manufacture, repack, relabel, or salvage drugs solely for use in their professional practice. Manufacturers who manufacture, repack, relabel, or salvage drugs solely for use in research, teaching, or chemical analysis and not for sale are also exempt from registering. And manufacturers of harmless inactive ingredients such as excipients, colorings, flavorings, emulsifiers, lubricants, preservatives, or solvents that become components of drugs are also exempt. Carriers in their receipt, carriage, holding, or delivery of drugs in the usual course of business as carriers, and storage facilities which do not perform any manufacturing function, are also exempt from registering its establishment with FDA. To register a facility with FDA, the company name, address of the manufacturing facility must be provided, as well as an establishment contacts information. The submission must also identify the business operations that apply to that facility. For example, manufacture, repack, relabel. For human drug manufacturing facilities, a business operation qualifier must also be included that clarifies what type of product is manufactured on site, such as over-the-counter or prescription. For a foreign facility, the establishment is required to include information on the importer and have a designated United States agent. The United States agent must reside or maintain a place of business in the United States and may not be a mailbox, answering machine, or service, or other place where a person acting as the United States agent is not physically present. The United States agent is responsible for reviewing, disseminating, routing, and responding to all communications from FDA, including emergency communications. Also, they are responsible for responding to questions concerning those drugs that are imported or offered for import to the United States. The United States agent also assists FDA in scheduling inspections, and if FDA is unable to contact a foreign registrant directly or quickly, FDA may provide the information and documents to the United States agent. FDA providing information and documents to the United States agent is equivalent to providing the same information and documents to the foreign registrant. Registration is required within 5 days of introducing product into commercial distribution. Annual renewal of registration must occur between October 1st and December 31st of each year. To verify whether a facility is registered with FDA, FDA has a public database known as Drug Establishment Current Registration Site. This site only publicly displays certain information from the registration. Information such as the firm name, FDA establishment number, commonly referred to as the FEI, Facility Establishment Identifier, DUNS number, business operation, address, and expiration date of the registration. When a facility is registered or re-registered starting October 1st, the expiration date will update to December 31st of the following year. At the start of the new year, FDA does remove the facilities that did not renew by December 31st. From the public database, the facilities must re-register to reappear in the database. By not renewing a registration, shipments may be detained for manufacturers not being registered. This is a common detention charge at the beginning of the year. When we discussed what was required to register a facility, a FEI number was not one of the requirements. The DUNS number serves as the registration number for a drug establishment. The FEI number is a number assigned by FDA for inspection purposes. Therefore, after a facility is registered for the first time, FDA will assign the FEI number to the site, typically within a year. Once a FEI number is assigned to the site, the registration must be updated to include the FEI number. Also, sites that are registered with FDA are subject to an inspection and are required to follow current good manufacturing practices. For domestic sites, FDA can appear on site at any time unannounced. For foreign facilities, FDA typically gives notice and works on scheduling the inspection in advance. A registration is required to re-register between October 1st and December 31st each year. Per 21 CFR Part 207.29, it states that an expedited update must be completed no later than 30 calendar days after closing or selling an establishment, or changing an establishment's name or physical address. Note that an update is only possible as long as the DUNS number is updated with a new establishment name or physical address. This must be updated first in order to update the registration with FDA. Dun & Bradstreet will not update its records until this information has been updated with the local government and, if applicable, the new building is occupied. When there is a change in the contact information, to ensure that correspondence can be received from FDA, the registration should be updated as soon as possible. It is also important to verify that the importer is listed or updated prior to shipping to the United States. The common detention Registrar Corp sees is the importer is missing from the registration. It is important to include on the registration prior to shipping. In the event that the importer does not have a DUNS number already assigned, one will need to be requested. That does take some time, up to 2 weeks, and depending on the method of shipping the goods may arrive in the United States before you are able to update their registration, which results in a detention. Failure to register in accordance with Section 510 of the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act is a prohibited act under Section 301P of the Act. Also, under Section 5020 of the Act, a drug is misbranded if it is manufactured in an establishment in any state not duly registered under Section 510 of the Act. It is a violation of federal law to ship misbranded products in interstate commerce or to import them into the United States. Such violations can result in prosecution of those responsible, injunctions, or seizures of the misbranded products. Products that are deemed misbranded because of failure of the facility to register are subject to being denied entry into the United States. In addition to registering the establishment with FDA, drug manufacturers must list the drug products that are processed at its site. All registered establishments must list all the products they produce for commercial distribution under their own labeler code. This includes active pharmaceutical ingredient manufacturers, other bulk manufacturers, contract manufacturers, repackers, and relabelers. This allows FDA to trace back where the product has been manufactured in the event that there is an issue. It helps FDA know what drug products are on the market and where the products are coming from. Like the establishment registration, the submission is formatted in a structured product labeling format. Every drug product must be assigned its own unique national code known as the NDC number. The NDC number has 3 segments that make up the 10-digit number. The first segment is the labeler code. It is a 5-digit number assigned by FDA and is used to identify the labeler company of the listing. The second segment is the product code. This is particular to the product name, active ingredient, and strength of active ingredient. Then the last segment is the package code. This is specific to the package type and quantity within the package. The segments are separated by hyphens. An example of the formatting is shown in red on this slide. All establishments, with few exceptions, that manufacture drug products are subject to registration are required to list the drug products. The few that are exempt from listing drug products are contract testing laboratories, contract assembler, and all manufacturers, repackers, relabelers, or salvagers of Type B or Type C medicated feeds. To clarify, a contract assembler is a company who takes drug products, does not modify the drug product, drug labeling, or drug packaging, but packages it with other drug products, medical device, or cosmetics in a kit. A contract assembler is not required to list, but is required to register. The kits are still required to be listed. A single product listing SPL may include multiple NDC numbers, products, and packages, provided that they all use the same content of labeling or package insert. For example, a single product listing SPL may include both a 200 milligram and a 400 milligram version of a tablet. And each tablet's presentation in bottles with counts of 50, 100, or 200 tablets. As the outer labeling varies for each product and package in this case, multiple carton images may be required to represent all the variations. When listing the product, the full 10-digit NDC number must be provided. The proprietary name and established name must be provided. Dosage form and route of administration is required for the finished dosage form. Each active ingredient and corresponding strength must be provided. Inactive ingredients are also required. And note that the inactives can be marked confidential if needed. A copy of the most up-to-date labeling of each package level, each manufacturer, repacker, relabeler, or any other business function that is involved in the manufacturing process must also be included in the SPL. A request must be submitted to FDA in SPL format in order for a company to be assigned a labeler code. Note that a DUNS number is required, so plan accordingly, as it does take time to have a DUNS number assigned by Dun & Bradstreet, and it does take on average up to 2 weeks for FDA to assign a labeler code. The labeler code assignment is sent by email to the registering contact. Once that number is received, it is important that the labeler code request SPL is updated with that information. FDA will not update its database with this information. Therefore, a common error that occurs is that the labeler code is not in the system when a listing is submitted. A labeler code SPL file must be updated when there is a change in a company name, DUNS number, contact information of the designated registering contact, change in United States agent, or its contact information, or if there's been a change in the business function, for example, from manufacture to distribute only. When assigning an NDC number to a drug product, it is important to note when a new number for a segment must be assigned. The first segment is the labeler code, and that identifies the labeler company in a listing SPL. A product code is specific to the product name, active pharmaceutical ingredients, the strength of the active pharmaceutical ingredients, and characteristics such as flavor, size, score, or color. If any of these change, then a new product code must be assigned. The last segment of the NDC number is the package code that is specific to the package type, such as box, tube, or bottle, quantity of the drug in the package, such as 20 milliliters or 3 tablets in the package, and then also levels of packaging. If any of this differs, then a new package code must be assigned. The NDC number can be configured in one of 2 ways. There is the 541 format or the 532 format. The 541 format is great for companies who have many shades of a sunscreen foundation, that is more than 10, but doesn't have many sizes of one specific product. The 532 format is great for companies who do not have a lot of different products that require separate product codes, but have many different package types or quantities of its products that will benefit from having more combinations for the package code component of the NDC number. Note that once a labeler code has been associated with a configuration, that configuration will be required for future NDC numbers. Contract manufacturers for both animal and human drugs must list each drug under the private label distributor's labeler codes. Contract manufacturers for human drugs only must list under its company's labeler code. Contract manufacturers will use a different marketing category from the private label distributor's listing to inform FDA that this is the contract manufacturer listing and it will not be released publicly online. The private label distributor may list on behalf of the contract manufacturer, either under its labeler code or under both labeler codes. Either way, the private label distributor must certify that the product has been listed so that the contract manufacturer knows that the requirement has been met. DailyMed provides information about marketed drugs in the United States. DailyMed is the official provider of FDA, label information, and package inserts. This website provides a standard, comprehensive, up-to-date lookup and download resource of medication content and labeling found in medication package inserts. The National Library of Medicine provides this as a public service and does not accept advertisements. The drug labeling information on this website is the most recent submitted to FDA and currently in use. It may include, for example, the strength and warnings undergoing FDA review or minor editorial changes. These labels have been reformatted to make them easier to read. There are certain changes that require an update to the listing FPL. When there is a change to the company name or DUNS number to either a manufacturer or labeler, the listing must be updated. Note that if there is a change to the labeler company name or DUNS number, the labeler code SPL will need to be updated first before the listing can be updated. When there are changes to the inactive ingredients, the listing must be updated. If there are changes to the artwork, then that will not require a new NDC number. An update to the listing SPL is required. An example is a new requirement to prescription drug labeling we will be discussing later in this webinar, known as product serialization, that will require an update to the listing SPL. A new NDC number must be assigned when there is a change in the product name, change in the active pharmaceutical ingredient, including strength, dosage form, when a drug changes from prescription to over-the-counter, when the drug's intended use changes from human to animal or animal to human use, any changes in the characteristics such as size, shape, color, code imprint, flavor, or scoring. If the quantity or package type changes, that will also require a new NDC number assignment. If a drug has been removed from the market and will be reintroduced to market, it is to keep the same NDC number as before. A new NDC number is not to be assigned. It is a violation of federal law to ship misbranded products in interstate commerce or to import them into the United States. Such violations can result in prosecutions of those responsible, injunctions, or seizures of the misbranded products. Products that are deemed misbranded because of failure to list a drug product are subject to being denied entry into the United States. Fall of 2017, FDA enforced a new requirement to certify listings that have no updates every re-registration period. Listing verification is a new requirement of 2015 that was enforced starting the re-registration period of 2017. Listings have been required to be updated every June and December when there were changes to the product's information, marketing status, or labeling content. Listings that had no changes required no further action. Now listings that have no changes are required to be recertified between October 1st and December 31st for the listing to be considered valid in the next coming calendar year. The manufacturer of a drug product initially is responsible to list the drug product and to maintain the accuracy of the listing. Now, the manufacturer is also responsible to ensure that the products manufactured on site are also certified. When a contract manufacturer is manufacturing for a private label distributor, it is important that the two companies communicate who is listing and maintaining the drug product and under which labeler codes. The product must be listed under each company's respective labeler codes. Sometimes the contract manufacturer will manage the listing under both companies' labeler codes. Sometimes the contract manufacturer and private label distributor will manage the listings under each respective company's labeler code, or the private label distributor will manage both. Either way, it must be clear between each party who is listing and managing the listings to ensure that the requirement to list and recertify are met. These companies can also opt to hire a third party, such as a United States agent for foreign establishments, who are required to have one anyway, or domestic companies can also hire a consultant to submit as an agent. Listings must be updated or certified that there are no changes between October 1st and 31st each calendar year. Products that are listed within the current calendar year and have no changes will be considered certified through the following calendar year. For example, a product listed this past April 2018 will be certified through December 31st of 2019. If a listing was updated during the current calendar year, it also will be considered certified through the following calendar year. However, a listing cannot be certified as no changes unless it is submitted between October 1st and December 31st. It is important that if a product that is no longer being marketed but is still being commercially distributed beyond the current calendar year is recertified. For example, if a company has stock of a product no longer being manufactured on site and wishes to ship the product in the upcoming calendar year, the drug product listing must be certified or the product may be detained upon arrival to the United States. To verify that a product is certified, FDA has a public database that you can search for drugs listed intended for human use. At this time, it does not appear that the Center of Veterinary Medicine has a public database with this information. The public database is split between finished and unfinished products. It is important to select appropriately for the product you are searching for. As contract manufacturers are commonly considered confidential information, NDC numbers for products that are listed under the marketing category for contract manufacturing only will not appear in this public database. Here is an example of an entry in the database for a product that is certified through the end of 2018. This listing will either need to be updated by the end of the year or certified that there are no changes between October 1st and December 31st in order to be certified through December 31st, 2019. There are consequences for not recertifying listings with FDA. FDA will mark the NDC number as unlisted in the public database. FDA is working on having the listings that are not certified to be removed from the Daily Med website. The products are also subject to the misbranding charge, which for foreign establishments can result in detained shipments. Now we will discuss product serialization, a new requirement for manufacturers and repackers of human prescription drug products. As part of the Drug Supply Chain Security Act, enacted by Congress on November 27, 2013, it works on improving a system for tracing human prescription drug products within the system. As part of these improvement efforts, new labeling provisions require adding a product identification labeling. Manufacturers and repackers of human prescription drug products are required to include the product identifier on the labeling. Wholesale distributors and third-party logistics providers are required to verify that the human prescription drug products that they handle have the product identifier on the labeling and verifies the documentation. Also, this act required that the wholesale distributor and third-party logistic providers report licensure information annually. Serialization is affixing or imprinting a product identifier to each package and homogeneous case of product intended to be introduced in a transaction into the United States commerce. Manufacturers and repackers are required to serialize human prescription drug products. A product identifier is a unique identity either for an individual prescription drug package or case that allows trading partners to easily trace drug packages as they move through the supply chain. It makes it easier to determine the source of the drug product in the event there is an issue with the drug product. A product identifier must be added to packaging intended for human use that requires a prescription to be dispensed to a consumer. No further manufacturing to the drug product is when the product identifier must be added to the labeling. If it is a bulk active pharmaceutical ingredient for human prescription use, the product identifier is not required on the labeling. The Act requires that each package and homogeneous case of product in pharmaceutical distribution supply chain bear a product identifier in both a human-readable form and on a machine-readable carrier. A 2D barcode may be used for a package or case. A linear barcode can only be used on case. The product identifier composes of a standardized numerical number that includes the NDC number and a serial number. The product identifier also must include the lot number and expiration date. The product identifier is required to be added to the labeling this year. For manufacturers, it has been extended to November 28, 2018, and repackagers are required to also add the product identifier to its labeling by November 28, 2018. FDA has advised that prescription drug listings that have not been updated per the new labeling requirement should not be recertified for 2019. By not adding the product identifier to human prescription drug labeling, the product is subject to a misbranding charge, and this can especially impact foreign shipments into the United States, as these may be detained upon arrival. It is important, especially for contract manufacturers, to work with their customers regarding adding this product identifier to the labeling, ensuring that the listings are updated accordingly with this new addition to the labeling if it has not been done so already. Today we discussed what is a drug establishment registration, who is required to register and when to update the registration. We also went into detail on what is a product listing, what drug products must be listed, and what changes require a listing update. We discussed the new requirement from last re-registration period to certify no changes for product listings. We have also gone over the requirement that is due this upcoming November to add a product identifier to prescription human drug products. Registrar Corp can assist you as registrant contact and United States agent for foreign countries by submitting drug establishment registrations, re-registrations, listing drug products, update current listings, and certifying no changes. Registrar Corp can also assist with submitting self-identification for your facilities to FDA and assist with submitting GDUFA to user fees. The benefits you see listing here are all provided at no additional cost with our Register and Contact and U.S. agent service. We also can assist with master file submissions, whether it is new master file, converting from a paper to an electronic format, or submitting updates to help maintain active status with the FDA. We also assist with maintaining already approved abbreviated new drug applications with FDA by submitting an annual report or adverse event reporting. Registrar Corp has 17 international offices in addition to its headquarters, in Hampton, Virginia, United States, and has aided more than 30,000 companies across 160 countries. In addition to the services named here, Registrar Corp offers FDA compliance assistance for the additional industries such as food and beverages, medical devices, cosmetics, electronics, and tobacco.
Thank you, Melissa, for that great presentation. Again, I'd like to announce that we will be sending a recorded copy of this webinar and a PDF copy of the presentation to all registrants. You may submit a written question anytime during the webinar by using the Ask a Question feature in the top center of your webinar screen. So let's begin with our questions. Our first question comes from Barry, and it says, for a drug product manufacturer in the UK, the private label distributor that they contract manufacture performs the Daily Med drug product listing. Our understanding is that the UK drug product contract manufacturer should still perform a drug product listing and assign its own NDC numbers. In its drug product listing, the contract manufacturer should include its shipper label as content of the labeling. Is this correct?
Okay. Yes. So as a private label distributor, even though you're United Kingdom or any other country, as a private label distributor, you want to ensure that your company has a labeler code. And in the regulation, it states that the private label distributor, obtains their labeler code. As for the listing component, that is something you really need to talk to your contract manufacturer with. Many times the contract manufacturers are listed under both labeler codes. So you really want to talk to them and find out, well, who's going to be listing? Or you can find out if they already listed. With Daily Med, what's really nice when you have, as a private label distributor, those listings will be publicly available. So once you have your labeler code, you can always periodically check up on your labeler code and make sure that the listings up there are accurate, what you have on the market, and that's what your company is marketing, to ensure that other companies haven't listed another product that is not your name. It's just a great way for you to check up on what's under your company's name. So with that being said, it's just really important for you to be aware of what products you have in the market, that this requirement is being met. So even if you're not submitting the listing your company yourself and you have your contract manufacturer doing it, you still want to verify that it's being done. Okay?
Thank you, Melissa. Our next question comes from Ida. We have a drug listing and NDC/DLS number for a product. A sample pack is now prepared with fewer tablets. Is a new drug listing required for the sample pack?
Yes. So even though the packaging is for sample only, the regulation, that's something more our label review department could advise better on in that regard. But when it comes to listing, the sample needs to be listed because it's still considered a product that's going through commercial distribution. Remember, the purpose of listing is for FDA to know what drug products are on the market and what's out there. And if there's an event, something happened, they need to know what's the packaging. And they're actually in the listing, it's something fairly new. In the package type section, or the package section in general, they have a little checkbox now for packaging that's samples. So now you can check off that it's a sample, which is kind of cool. It's kind of neat. So that's something very new in the listing SPL. So you do need to list that is really the short answer to your question.
Thank you, Melissa. Our next question, we actually have two questions that I feel kind of go hand in hand. So is product listing also valid for API manufacturers? And is a U.S. agent required for non-USA API manufacturers?
All right. So for active pharmaceutical ingredient manufacturers, it is required to register your establishment. It is required to list your products. In respect to that, if the API is being commercially distributed in the United States. Let me clarify. If you're an API manufacturer in the United States, you have to register and need to list your active pharmaceutical ingredient with the FDA. No ifs, ands, buts about that. If you're a foreign company, you need to register your facility as an API manufacturer if your API is either being shipped to the United States or if the API is going to be incorporated into a finished drug product that is offered or used in the United States in commercial distribution. FDA has advised that if you're an active pharmaceutical ingredient in a foreign country, okay, you're manufacturing that API, you don't ship it to the United States, it gets further manufactured in another country before coming to the United States, because your API is not being commercially distributed in the United States, you would not be required to list the product. But you're still required to register your establishment because you're still going to be subject to the current good manufacturing practices, still subject to inspection because that API is being used in a drug product. Okay? Now the U.S. agent component, because you are required to register, you will be required to have a U.S. agent for that registration component. Okay?
Thank you, Melissa. Our next question. Should I register a drug listing for an intermediate formula containing an API? This is not the finished product, which will be directly on the market, but the finished product will contain that intermediate formula.
Okay. So intermediates are considered like excipients. If it's not the active pharmaceutical ingredient, you're exempt from the registration listing requirement. Okay, but if it's containing the API, the active pharmaceutical ingredient itself, it gets a little hairy in that regard. You really want to look at that definition of active pharmaceutical ingredient, and you want to make sure that your product meets that definition. By definition, that active pharmaceutical ingredient, if it has the pharmacological activity to be performing the function to be treating, mitigating, curing, preventing, treating a disease, then it's most likely, if it could fall under the active pharmaceutical ingredient definition, you want to register your establishment and list the product if it's going to be in commercial distribution in the United States. When it gets on those borderlines, sometimes the best thing to do is seek legal counsel and see what they say, because you almost get into that gray area. But if there's a chance it could be an active pharmaceutical ingredient, you want to make sure you register and list in that respect. Okay?
Thank you, Melissa. Our next question. What if I miss the deadline to recertify my drug listings?
Okay, so products that are not recertified by December 31st will be considered inactive and marked as unlisted in the NDC directory. So there's a function called blanket no change where you can select all the NDC numbers. That's just something kind of technical, but the easy way to recertify listings will no longer be available. Okay, so in order to certify or basically have your products listed again with FDA, the entire listing SPL for each product that was not certified will have to be submitted to FDA in order for the listing to be current, certified, valid again. Okay?
Thank you, Melissa. Our next question. If the foreign API manufacturer is using a contract lab for testing, does that mean the contract lab needs to be registered?
If that API is being used for a drug that's going to be eventually be on the market, chances are it should be registered. There's the two terms, if it's for release testing versus non-release testing. That API is going to be, it has to do what the API is intended for. But if it's going to be intended for release testing where the API is going to a finished drug product, most likely really needs to be registered. If it's something that's still for research, teaching, that kind of analysis, it falls under that exemption, it wouldn't. So it really has to intend what that API is being used for, whether or not the lab will need to be registered. Okay.
Thank you, Melissa. Our next question. My facility also manufactures medical devices and packages the medical device with drug products into kits. would the medical device be assigned its own NDC number?
This is important. An NDC number is the unique identifier for drugs in the United States. Okay, so the key thing is NDC numbers are to be used only for drugs. Okay, this is something I really want to make it clear. An assignment of an NDC number to a non-drug product is not permitted. Okay, therefore, these NDC numbers, if you were to assign it to a non-drug product, such as a medical device or medical foods, you could be facing charges with misbranding. So I just highly advise against that. Okay.
All right, thank you, Melissa. Our next question, am I required to include the NDC number on the labeling of the drug product?
Unfinished drug products and over-the-counter drug products, they're not required to include the NDC number on the packaging. However, the NDC number is required on the packaging of prescription drug products, especially for human use, with this new requirement coming up this November, November 28th to be exact. That needs to include the NDC number as part of that product identifier. Okay?
Thank you, Melissa. Our next question. I have products that were previously listed by paper and have not been listed electronically. How do I recertify these listings?
As paper listings, they cannot be recertified by paper means. And if the products were not electronically listed, to date, the products would be considered as not listed. Okay, if they're still actively marketed, it would be in direct violation of 21 CFR, it's Part 201, and it will be considered misbranding. Shipments can be detained and refused entry because of this. So it's highly recommended to electronically list your products as soon as possible. Okay.
Thank you, Melissa. Our next question. I am no longer marketing a drug product. What do I need to do?
When a product's no longer being marketed, or it's going to be removed from the market, the listing must be updated to a marketing status known as complete. And the end marketing date must be included. You can use the expiration date of the last manufactured lot as the end marketing date. So when the end marketing date comes, say today's the end marketing date, the listing will be removed from the public database such as DailyMed. Note that if the end marketing date is in the future year, you really want to make sure you recertify it so that the product's still certified, meets the regulatory requirements, and also prevent issues when you're trying to ship over the remaining stock from your warehouses overseas. Okay?
All right, thank you, Melissa. And we will now take our last question, and that is, by registering my establishment and listing a drug product, does that mean my drug product is approved by FDA?
Ooh, this is a good one. Registration of a drug establishment or a drug wholesaler, or if you have an assignment of a registration number or the assignment of an NDC number, it does not in any way denote approval of the company or its products. Any representation that creates an impression of this official approval because of registration or possession of a registration number or the NDC number, it's misleading. And it can basically lead to a misbranding charge under the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. So you want to be very careful with your product labeling on your literature, on your website, and how you promote your products, or even your facility. You don't use the word that you're approved by FDA because you had an inspection or you have a registration. So it's just very good question. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Melissa. We are out of time, but you can send us additional questions anytime by email to info@registrarcorp.com as seen on your webinar screen. This concludes our presentation. Thank you for joining us today.